All right, good evening, guys. I have a nightly strategy podcast for July 10th, 2023. We'll start with the 30-minute hybrid swing, should start with Alcoa, pardon me. Starting with Alcoa, 30-minute charts. So last Friday, we closed that trade. Today, it just kind of did nothing. No trade, no overnight risk. AI, the software company, initiated the COTA 2 intraday, kind of missed this harsh sell off and then a reversal. Might have been able to take a risk box off the bottom. Probably would have scratched. I was content to wait for the RL10 to cross the dragon, hit the PSAR, and go. And it closed pretty well. It's at about 0.5R. If it gets above 42, that will be a sign that it's ready to go. Caterpillar initiated the COTA 2 cliff COTA 2 entry, holding that overnight. CVS missed the short. This was tempting, but I really wasn't interested in trying to trade in the last half an hour on something that's just right in the middle of its trading range. So if there's a continuation tomorrow above today's high, I could be interested in it, but I didn't want to hold that overnight. Not enough reason to hold it overnight. Dish Network closed a nice trade on Friday. PSAR flip today, orderly move, exit with the dragon, classic, +1. I'll take those each and every day. Devon Energy, Friday we closed this trade. Today it gapped up and then did nothing. So it's stabilizing. That could be something like this stabilization, which led to that. So we'll see. No trade today. Electronic Arts, no trade. Emerging markets. I thought hard about this one. On the PSAR flip with a tight stop, like a COTA 2. If I had taken that one, I would have gotten out here because there was no follow through the rest of the day. So that's either no trade or a scratch trade. And the reason for that is it's not at an extreme condition here. It's too close to the top, which is a natural resistance. It's too far off the bottom. And if it had fallen through this, yeah, then maybe. But from right here, there's no percentage. There's no 2-to-1 to the upside. Range bound. Ethereum, I initiated the SSC. So this has had like 2 or 3 big legs down. So there's leg 1, leg 2, moderate leg 3, and held strong during the day. And that felt like an SSC, and it closed pretty well at 987. So we'll see. It has to get above 10, to be interesting. And then if it does, it could get to 1030 and then 1050, but it has to get above 1060, which is the combination 30-day and 10-day high, which was made back here. Mexico, no trade. Brazil initiated the supported fall crossing. This failed right where it failed before, and we took the gain on Friday, and then today it gapped down and started selling off. So standard short, and this was kind of a confirmation move. At this move right here, I'm starting to think, what's it going to do? Is it going to give me an indication? Like if it doesn't fail here, then I probably get out with a fraction. But the last 2 hours, it was this. And so now 31 1/4 is in play. to the belly of the dragon, which was the last R10 wiggle, and then also the 10-day low at 31. And it's in the winter, still in the Red River, so this is tentatively failing. So I like that as a continuation tomorrow. Intel initiated the Kata 2, closed well. IP, boy, I missed this one. So Friday, we had that outrageous good fortune, Thursday and Friday to close here. Today, so this is where it closed. Today, it gapped all the way down to here and then ran all the way up to here in the first 30 minutes, excuse me. And then it started to fail. So I had thought hard about this as a buying off the bottom, and then was just hypnotized by that move. Then when it fell a risk box off of that intraday high, that felt a lot more natural. It really did nothing but come down to the edge of the dragon. So we took +1. It was quite a ride, and we netted +1, and I like that. I like the way I played that. IYR, no trade. Regional banks, no trade. This is Matt. This is Mattel. So you will recall last Friday we talked about what to do in here. And the question was, do we add a position? Do we hold what we got? Do we cash a position? Because of the previous run-up in this thing, I elected to add a position here. Today it gapped up to here and closed pretty well. So that paid off. Doesn't always. But the important thing is that on that decision, the only thing that it did was this and never went below that line. So a failure here never really materialized. So I got lucky on that one. We're still holding 3 positions. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 on the first one, 3 on the second one, 2 on the third one. So that's at about 10R on 3 positions, and it closed pretty well. And then it's very near the 30-day high. So I'm liking that one. Hat tip to my brother. McDonald's, I took the gap and go SSC. So this was like actually more like it opened here and then just ran up to here, came back, and then started to recover. That's where I get it, with a tight stop. And then it did nothing, although it looked promising at first, and then came back here, and I ended up getting out with a scratch. So, scratch. Merck, same thing. Only in this one, there actually was a gap. And then it failed. So, I'm sorry, gap to, ran up, came back, held support, so I get long. It ran up, and right here, I'm almost +2. And then I let that darn thing slide all the way back here. That's what happens when you believe in the trade too much. I let 2R become a scratch. Bad form. Merck. That was Merck. Sorry. Yeah, Microsoft, a tale of 2 trades today. So this is where it closed Friday. Big gap down, short, standard risk, sold off hard, came back. I take the drag and exit for 2R. R10 wiggle continues all the way through the dragon, turns to spring, hits the PSAR. So right near the close, I'm holding this basically at a scratch. I think this is one that has a good possibility of a game, that this will be seen as an overreaction. You know, from where it was at 342, it sold off as low as 328. So that's minus $14 on 340. 10%. That's about 4%. So that's Microsoft on sale for 4%. And that's at about 2%. So That still feels like it's on sale. Marijuana. I stayed way too long on this one. Just, man, I don't know. Opened here, ran up, bought it, ran all the way up to here. Should have been out here and just got hypnotized and -1. Just span of control and foggy mind. Bad form. NVIDIA, not much better. Gap down, sold off, took off, and I was believing in tech, and I let that get to a -0.3. So a couple bad ones in a row. Lack of attention to detail. PBW, we closed a nice trade Friday. It opened here, sold off 1, 2, 3 entry, came through the dragon, standard risk. That one closed really well at a new 30-day high. That's one that can really go. And we're holding 3R on that one. I would make PBW a focus tomorrow. There's a real good chance that that continues. If we look back a little further, this thing has cleared all previous resistance. So that was resistance here, resistance, held support at resistance, and now it's going. So there's a real good chance for this to go. And in retrospect, that's about as clear a Kata 2 as you could ask for. And it's above the peak of the RL10. Watch PBW tomorrow. Rivian, holy smokes. Although today, all it did was, after we cashed this trade last Friday, just couldn't take it anymore. It opened here, sold off like a 1, 2, 3 entry. I just get back in, and it sold off, and I held it as long as I could, and then it scratched. So that run, which started way back here, this run, and it's 8 days ago. 8 days ago, this thing was at 14. And today, it stabilized at 26. So it went from 14 to 26 in 8 days, and that's 80%. And we were playing the mover very strong. That was a great success story. But this now feels kind of toppy, doesn't it? So we now got to be prepared for the zero state. Failure below 24.5 comes down to test this gap. That's a gap. So if this fails, it gets right back into this chopitude pretty easily. And if it breaks below 20, look out below, because here's the next gap at 18. And if that fails, 5-day low at 17. So the price ladder to the downside on this one is strong. Yeah, but what about the upside? Well, if it can get above this double top at 26, or call it 26.5 above the 30-day high, we might be interested in it. I mean, this one has, it's gotten most of what we thought it could get, to be honest. We thought it could get to here, 30. Once it breached this, it's gotten most of that right now. So there's only this little piece left to get to 30. And then once it gets into 30, all of this is some heavy sledding. That's like the mud. So this is like no resistance. This would be resistance. In the same way that all of this was resistance. And then when it broke, this is no resistance until it gets to here. And that's where resistance is. So that breakout from here, boom. So now we just want to know, can it get from 26 to 30? So that's $4. So you should be trying to manage about a $1 risk on that one for execution or position sizing. All right. Meanwhile, back at the ranch. Let me go back for a minute to treasuries. This is pretty interesting. This price level, you don't get a much rounder number than 100. Strong, 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 moderate. Only one time has it failed. Of course, this was the time that it failed here. So the last move was this. So if this continues to break, call it 95 is the target. And that's a minus 5% move. But if it recovers, it gets to 104. That's also a 5% move. And then if 105 can't hold it, it gets to 108 and then 110. So this is kind of a very interesting critical state in treasuries where you have a strong breakout to the upside, excuse me, and the possibility for a strong breakdown to the downside where you have multiple reward to risks in both directions. So that's a pretty good critical state. So now if I zoom in on the 30, this has the feeling of, that runaway freight train, but then support. Can it break out? If it does, back to here, here, here. So for very little risk, you can get 3, 5, 7 to 1. And then if it breaks down, it's 7 to 1 the other way too. And treasuries, R10 is 13, meaning his range stat is $1.30. The mechanical risk or the my risk is about 80 cents. And my spider sense is at 80 cents is about right for position sizing. That's a little less than 1%. Finally, Tesla. Initiated a SSC. It's had 2 legs down. 1, pause. 2, pause. And it held support. It gave me a 1, 2, 3 crossing the dragon. So standard risk box. Let's see what you can do. Can you get back to 280? If so, that's like plus $10 on about a $3 risk. That's a 3 to 1 upside trade here. And then if this fails, it's down to here at 255. So I like the short. If this fails, I like the short. US Steel. Tried the Kata 2 scratch. This may be the end of that run. That's a 2-day stabilization zone. All right, shifting to the intraday, the fun stuff. Here is some the sniper trade of the day. So we have a close here, nice big gap up here, ran all the way up to the top, then all the way down to the bottom and closed. Then in the next bar, it fell below the OR3. So our OR3 entry looks like that. To the upside, if it had broken out of here, we could be long. But it broke to the downside, so we're short. And this is our standard risk box. And this is in symbol AI. And that's at about 60 cents standard risk. Check or hold? Now, if this fails, getting to here is kind of a no-brainer. And this is where you could put a second position on if it fell below the belly of the R10. Big time fail. So right from the get-go in that second bar, this thing sold off hard. Look how bad my exit was. It sold off, and then it came back to here, sold off hard, came back to here. At that point, I felt like, man, I got to take that. So I felt like I left some money on the table there with that run down to here in reversal. Although that's about maybe an R, and I'm pretty happy about that actually. You know, that's about a 1R capture. And the maximum favorable excursion, maybe another 1R. So that felt like a nice place to cash it to get started. Then it immediately rolled over again. Fell below the R10. So what would we call this entry? Collapsing dragon when it breaks below. So we're short here. And standard risk box is going to be there. Check or hold? Now, if we wanted to make an estimate of how far this could go, how could we do that? We could go to the high of the day and then drop a range stat, and then whatever that number is, that's the maximum reasonable intraday move. And we know how far this has gone. And we know this R10 is 1/10. So if we said 1, 2, 3, it's not even fallen 3. It's fallen 0.3 of a range set. So if that's 3, there's 7 more to the downside potentially before it becomes an irrationally exuberant move. So you can take this trade here with no qualm about, is there enough reasonable move to the downside? Is there? Yeah, it's 7/10 of a range stat still. And it's breaking below the low of the day right here. So that could really go. And it does. And it drops another if I think of that as a chunk, if it dropped that as a chunk, from here it dropped again, it drops another chunk and then rolls up. So I take that one even before it gets to the edge of the dragon, and that captures about another +1. So between that +1 and this +1, we're at about +2. Check or hold? What would we call this entry? With a standard risk box. There's your PSAR flip. SSC. Just entering the Red River. If it can get across the Red River, this thing has a chance to go. That's what a harsh winter looks like. And that gives us about a little over +1 standard, almost +2. So now we're at about +4. Now notice how we get to the summer, and now this thing is starting to come into the station. It's connecting to its 5 period. When that does, it's now getting ready to go into fall. And then the easy money, not that there is such a thing, is over. So there's your spring move, and there is your summer move. So now we're wondering, what's that going to do? It rolled over. So the exit at the edge of the dragon is appropriate. That's your dragon exit, people. What do we call that entry? Got a 2 all day. We call that one a scratch. And what would we call that entry? Probably a supported fall crossing. It's trying hard to fail. Sure enough. Now, I want you to notice leg 1 can't penetrate through the dragon, can't flip the PSAR. Notice what the R10 does. It just kind of wiggles and fails. So if I had 2R in hand, then I could 2R battle drill it, or I could just hold my nose and take it as a CD. I'm content with one entry. So if this is leg 1 and then this is leg 2, if we call that leg 1 and call this leg 2, Now, when this rolls over, we're entitled to believe that we saw the pretty good move. And yeah, if you get out right here, then you win that trade. And then you can re-enter here. Same thing. Now notice the R10 rolls over. Now I can take the dragon exit, and now I can take, what would we call that entry? If I'm using the standard risk, probably something like that. What's that entry? Yep, SSC. And the reason it's an SSC is because this has lower lows and is now reversing. So the primary move is still this. That makes this an SSC. So we have less belief in that one. If you were an Uwe exit guy, your stop would have been here, which is higher than the standard risk. It just works out that way. And then you count from the entry, you count 1, 2, 3. On the fourth one, you raise your stop to here. So the pathway of your stop looks like this. And you've locked in no lose plus dinner for 2. And then you could decide, hey, maybe what I want to do is pick the southern skin of the dragon. That angle, as long as this is going up like this, then that angle on the dragon should be good. Or I could just commit to following the PSAR, which is probably something like that. But once you commit to one of those lines of geometry, if I committed to this one, don't suddenly later shift back to that one. Stay true. So let's see what we might get with this. That was a reasonable exit. The R10 barely wiggled and then held support above the PSAR. So if this got you out, that's okay. But then this has to get you back in because it did not fail and it broke above the peak of the R10. So if this gets you out, that has to get you back in. I would take that as an approved play. And all of that works. And kind of the official exit would be this one where the R10 crosses the PSAR. That's officially the end of it. And so there's probably, 2.5 R was available in that move. In 2 legs, here's leg 1, pause. Leg 2, pause. And no further trades that day. Let's take a look at the traders. This is Damien. Here's the open. Takes a 1, 2, 3 entry. Standard risk. 0.5. Stays out of the chop. Here's the PSAR flip. breakout, 1, so he's up plus 1.5. Stays out of the chop, tries the next PSAR flip, standard risk, comes up to here, should be getting out right here. Lets this thing move a full, should be getting out here at -1. Gets out at -1.5, and we scratched for the day. If that's your worst day at work, that's fine. But I do want you to realize that this speculative one is right at the peak of the day. So if this doesn't go right away, you cannot believe in it because it's in the fall. And here, we let that thing get all the way into the winter before we sold it. So we bought in the fall and tried to hold it and make the winter become spring, I guess. So we can't force it to do that. So good lessons learned. Tim? There was an OR3 available here. Probably would have lost. A re-entry would have gotten it back. He does take the COTA 2. 1 hour loss. Waits to get short here, so we missed this win. So this is only a scratch. And then another quick scratch. So I think we were late on this one and we were late on that one. Whereas if we want to be in right about there. Oh, okay. The monkey got him into the trade because he had had a trade on there but didn't eliminate it. So when he realized he was in, when you're surprised like that, the right thing to do is get out. So he was able to do that. Waits for the collapsing dragon, quick loss of 0.6. Correct. Merck, he gets the OR3 right out the gate. I like this exit here, a 1, 2, 3, but that's still pretty good. I like this short. I like the re-short. I'm not sure why we got out. But even if we did, why don't we can get back in here? It's clearly moving in our direction. It's below the VWAP. So I think we want to be short here. This is a great SSC and crushes it, makes 3.2, net almost 2 for the day. Really good work. All right, this is Mike M. Z3 pinch, fake 1, go 2, standard risk. And we should be out here. We let it come all the way back to here. As he knows, that let a 1.4R trade go to 0.3. But he was good enough to stay out of the chop. Now, for tomorrow, I want you to notice that for Rivian, that's probably the size of the noise box. When it's non-directional, so you could actually, if you on breakouts, you could actually use that as a noise box, because a failure of more than that would be failure of more than a noise box. So you could kind of use that in critical states as the size of a MMRB. That's another way to do it. Microsoft, this is Hamad. Now, I still think that I think you got too many things on your plate. You're using 4 primary and 4 alternates. And then there was enough overlooking or errors inside this that were missing trades. And I think that's span of control. So I like that trade. I like that trade. I like this short. That's a reasonable exit. But then if we just stay, The same logic that got us into those three gets us into this one, and that pays for the day. And so does that one. And now this C3 breakout here, if you put that frog box, now what you notice is that frog box would look something like this. So this really is a pinch. And that means you could take that trade right there. You won't lose money on it. I do like the COTA 2. Quick cut, and then I like the short. So those were really the only ones that had any Harper with. And my spider sense is that you had span of control issues in here as you were busy searching for movers. Just because it didn't move in here doesn't mean it's not going to move in here. It just means it hasn't moved yet. All right, NVIDIA, you are controlling your lot. So nice win. You got paid. I think this short can go maybe a bar or two sooner. That's still pretty good. Micro, the re-entry was what made that great. You got paid. You got paid. This, after 3 down micro wins, and then this one doesn't fail further, that's a stop and reverse. And that turns this into a winning day. And now we're in the chop. Stay out of the chop. That cost you a full R, those two. Not taking that trade cost you 1.5 R. So that's 2.5 R. And that's why I'm saying it's probably span of control issues right now. The other thing to notice on this is winter, spring, it came out of the Red River and goes. All right, Merck. Yeah, again, I think this is span of control. We should be able to see that a run up, a fail, a PSAR flip should be crushing that, and then reverse it. That orderly move that did not collapse now gets you that trade. That's a really nice trade in 2 legs, and pretty good staying out of the chop. This one feels like a fake 1 go 2. That didn't work, so I love the quick re-entry, and that pays off for a really good day. And I think it's because you were so busy searching for mover, maybe had too many things on your plate. Man, does that make this a nice day? Oh. Yep, staying out of Crocodile River. Maximum chop. Yeah, staying out of the Crocodile River. If that's the move that's in play, the harsh winter, then we should be taking this long here. If we don't, that makes this a great short. That's a great short. And a quick cut, that's a great long and a quick cut. I don't have any heartburn with those at all, especially given the magnitude of these 2 moves. You have every reason to believe that either one of those could go. It just didn't. But sometimes it will. So don't beat yourself up on that one. Tesla. Again, span of control. I think we get lost in the chop. So that's a good shot. COTA 2. Maybe we could cut it 1 bar sooner. I like the re-entry, still the COTA 2. I love the stop and reverse. And I love this one. Those are so good. SSC. And we got plenty of early warning on that. In the time that it went from the end of this run to the start of that good run, the winter ended, it went to spring, it entered the Red River, crossed the Red River. That little indicator is what that looks like. And after a harsh winter, you got to be ready to take that trade right there. You're putting this on your chart, use it. And Greg finally comes in off the sidelines. Yes. All right, Greg. Well done. Get in the pool. This is good practice, as that is a standard stamp. C3 pinch, C3 pinch breakout, use the bottom of the PSR. There's a trade. Stays out of the chop. Now, if I want you to draw your frog box on there to determine if this is a Z3 pinch. Let's see. So this is our entry on a breakout of the Z3. It chunk, exit for 3/4. Good work. I like the idea of identifying specifics on what you see. Good work there. Quick look at let's see if we can call up the chart. Where is that rascal? RL or the market 150 kind of stabilizing in this tight range. It's right in the middle of that range. That's now kind of a critical state, ready to break out. It has to get above 442. And then the collapse would be here, say below 430. Back to this. So critical state, ready to go either direction. Be ready for tomorrow. This week is going to be increasing in volatility as we go. Big trading week ahead, I think. Yeah, today was a range compression. Let's see what we got now. Bull quiet, slight pullback, volatility back to the zero line, still risk on, not abnormal. It's now ready to make this move. That was a great pair of moves off of exactly this level of volatility. So don't be surprised to the upside. Don't be surprised to the downside, because it can also give you that sharp move down from here. So it's poised on a knife edge for a critical state based on volatility. So this is a trader's week today. Saw a little bit of weakness here in Coca-Cola, which is a 2.5 to 1 target. Micro breakout in Caterpillar. I'm glad to be long. Lots of auto framers. 1.5DD in Disney. Some up days here in Intel on a 551W. It's a swing system, a relaxed form of the triple screen, as is 3M, Walmart, and ExxonMobil. All positive. The ETFs, a little less jumping around. Lithium, slight breakout. Bigger breakout in clean energy. I think PBW, like I said earlier, that thing is poised to be really good. Treasuries at 5.6 to 1. I tried to make that argument that it's right at 100 and the move to 105 and 95 is there, and you can get more than 5 to 1 in both directions for about an 80-cent risk. Lots of auto framers to choose from. Lots of daily squeezes to choose from. Here's some in the energy sector there, XOP. The S&P itself is poised for a big breakout because it was squeezed tightly today. So I like that. Tomorrow is a fireworks day. Handful of Godzillas in the S&P, all stealthy ones. Humana, Bristol Myers Squibb. Couple really big movers today on the Z1 breakout. Look at that. Wow. Win Casinos, that's a frog champion. Verizon and MGM, double greens. For those of you playing volatility. Tech was actually pretty good in the semis, except for NVIDIA. Well above the S&P and well above their technical index in the Q. So there was actual strength in both Intel and Texas Instruments. Could be some nice follow through still. All right, that's everything I want to cover for tonight. We'll get this published and posted, and see you tomorrow. Take good care.